Boy, I've been looking forward to turning this piece of wood, or one of the many that I have of this piece of wood. This is apricot. Never turned apricot before. I don't know if it'll be like a typical apple or cherry kind of wood or what. I love that heartwood in there along with the sapwood. Nice contrast. Got beautiful bark on it. This was brought here to me by Mark and his wife, and they stopped by with a load of wood, and I'm looking forward to turning this. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or as we like to say here at Shady Acres Wood Shop. Howdy, let's take a closer look at it. As you can plainly see, I rounded the piece up on the bandsaw a little bit before we got started here. It is a nice crotch piece, and I saved a good portion of that, all that I could. So we should have some interesting grain inside there. Look at all that heartwood. Little sapwood on the sides. I said the bark is nice. It is. You can see that I put some CA glue around there, trying to keep it on. I'll probably have to do repairs as we go along because I think it sounds loose up this way, but we'll see. Anyway, I'm looking forward to turning it. It's about 10 inches in diameter, about 4 inches, 4¼ inches thick. Nice looking piece of wood. I've marked a hole there in the middle. I'm going to take this over here to the drill press, drill a large flat spot for my chuck jaws to set against. In the middle of that, I'm going to drill a hole for my woodworm screw. We'll get it mounted up on the lathe and get to turning. Here's what I've done. Drilled a flat spot for my chuck jaws to set against and a hole for my woodworm screw. Now we'll just get it mounted up. There we go. We're going to start at 480 RPM, 5/8 inch bowl gouge, mask and face shield on. Going to be pretty bumpy for a while. Well, that's just not fun. I'm going to come over here and round it up first, I guess. Maybe that's what I should have done in the first place. I'm a little afraid of that bark, I guess, and I didn't want to disturb it, but that's kind of silly, isn't it? Got to disturb it sooner or later. I bet it's round now. It is. Maybe I'll just flatten off the bottom and get that part out of the way too. I also just sharpened up. Now, I get asked all the time, what bevel do I have on my bowl gouge? That's a 60-degree bevel on there. And just recently I was asked what bevel is on my swept back bowl gouge. That's a 45-degree bevel. And I didn't know. I had to come out here to take a look, and then here I am telling you. This is a 45. That's a 60. Might as well lay out for a tenon while we're here. Now I'm going to use this diamond point tool to square up the sides of the tenon. That's good. Now we'll move back over here to the side and this corner anyway and start seeing what kind of shape we're going to get out of it. And I didn't tell you I sped it up to 1200 RPM. Uh-oh. Look at that bark. Whew. That's no good. Loose over here too. Both sides. So I better put some glue under there and put a clamp on it. I'll do that and I'll be back. I've glued all the bark back on and I feel pretty good about it. So let's get back to it. 1200 RPM, 5/8 inch bowl gouge, mask and face shield on. Not sure where we are here. Still got a flat spot on the two long ends here, but I'm happier with this. So we'll just round up the top here. We're just about there. That should do it. Yep, fully round. I just need to flatten off my base here a little bit. Much better. Time for sanding. I'm going to start the sanding with my Sandoflex. This is 180 grit, and that's as fine as I'll go. I'm going to sand all along the top couple of inches of bark here, or whatever I can reach, I guess. I'll be turning away most of it, but I'll be sanding it now. When I'm done with that, I'm going to switch to my 2-inch disc. I'll have the lathe spinning in reverse at 350 RPM. This is 80 grit. I'll work up through 400, and I'll show you what all that looks like as soon as I get my mask on. I'll be doing more of that, but that's what it looks like. And that's what that looks like. I'll bring it back here in a bit and we'll put some kind of finish on there. See you in a bit. Well, let's see what this apricot looks like. Those cracks bother you? They probably bother some people. Fruit wood does that generally. Plum is maybe the worst that I've dealt with anyway. But I kinda like it. Plum cracks are much larger than that. Same look, but larger. This is sanding sealer I'm applying. Shellac based sanding sealer. It's called Zinsser Seal Coat. Looks like I'll put on 2 coats of this and then 2 coats of shellac over it with 3M abrasive pads in between. A gray one in between the coats and a white one after the final coat. And with those you can really control your finish. You can have it shiny if you want, at least pretty shiny, or you can dull it down a little bit. I don't like really shiny, so I tend to use it a little more aggressively. I don't mind the cracks, but I like them to have sealer in them so you can't see the real white wood. It just blends in with the rest of it. And whenever I use the brush, I like to come behind it with fresh sealer on my rag and wipe up those brush marks real quick before it dries, because they can be hard to get out if you let it dry. What's really going to make this grain and color stand out is sealer on the bark. You'll see the bark after I turn it around. So this is what I'll be doing for a little bit, and after I get the shellac on, we'll turn it around and start working on the inside, and that's when I'll bring you back. See you in a bit. I've got a beautiful finish on the outside of this piece. I'm so happy with it. I've turned the piece around and have the tenon mounted up in the chuck. We're going to be turning at 1000 RPM, 5/8 inch bowl gouge, mask and face shield on. As is almost always the case, I've run out of room. My gouge handle is hitting the tailstock, and I need to be over here. I need to get an angle like this, but I can't with the tailstock there. I was hoping to get further than I am. I can go deeper, I just can't come out here any further, but I need to come out further. So we'll just do without the tailstock for a bit, probably forever. I've been worried about this bark coming off. I glued it really well around the sides, but the ends didn't seem to need it, but now I see there's just a tiny little bit of a wiggle on both ends. So I'm going to put a little CA under there. And I see it came out here a little bit, and that's what I wanted. And then I'll do the same over here. I think that will do it. So I'll let that set for just a minute and we'll get back at it. See what that looks like. Yeah, that's better. I'm just scraping as I go down and still have center support. I'm gonna go sharpen up. I'm checking for cracks. And I don't see any other than what we already saw on the outside starting to come through here, but they're not going anywhere. So we'll do a little more shear scraping. That's good. Now we still got about an inch in the bottom, and I'm going to go sharpen up. Must be getting pretty close. Huh? No? 3/4. Felt like I went further than that. Oh man. I gotta sharpen up again. Maybe I should invest in some better quality tools, huh? I don't know what's so different about this Apricot, but it's dulling my tools in a hurry. Alright, now we're talking about 3/8. I think that's as far as I'm going to go. I'm going to put a fresh burr on my scraper and we'll scrape. By golly gum, I believe we've got it. Time for sanding. I'm starting the sanding at 80 grit, working up through 400, just like us on the outside. I have the lathe spinning in reverse at 350 RPM. I'll bring you back here in a bit and we'll put some sanding sealer in there. See you in a bit. Let's sand it up really nice, and I think we have a pretty nice bowl here. I did have to take quite a little bit of time and sand along this edge right here. It gets quite sharp, and all of these little indentations along the bark. I had to take a little sanding pad or one of my sanding discs and go like that between all of them. That took a little time, but I got it. Just clean that bark up a little. Now this has the typical, well, maybe not typical, but the feather that you get. Can you see that feather that you get with a crotch piece like this? But for me, it's a feather. Everybody calls it a feather. It's a feather. But for me, it looks just like some of the x-rays I have on my spine, especially down here at the bottom where the disc got all blew out. Kind of looks like that. But 3 operations later and 35 years later, no more back problems. So that's good. That started in the Army. Nowadays, you'd get disability for that. Okay, well that looks pretty good. I'll get on another coat of this. This is sanding sealer, just like I put on the outside, and then shellac over that. So I'll get on another coat of that, 2 coats of shellac. I'll bring you back and we'll take the tenon off. See you in a bit. I've mounted a block of wood up in my chuck. I'm going to put a non-slip cloth over that and bring up the bowl and bring up my tailstock. I still have that center hole there for reference, so I can just drive my live center right into that. Apply a little pressure, bring up the tool rest. We'll spin the piece up, see if it's running true, right on the money. Turn the speed up to about 600 RPM. I'm going to grab a 3/8 inch bowl gouge and commence to removing that tenon. We'll stop and check for clearance. We have clearance. I'm going to turn the speed down to about 400 RPM. Just keep working it away. And now that's quite small. I want to get a little bit closer, a little bit higher with my tool rest. And I'm going to turn the speed down to about 200 RPM. And I'm going to switch to a swept back bowl gouge so that I can get in there closer and tighter. Now there's nothing holding the bowl on the lathe except the pressure of this bevel. So I'm applying pressure towards the headstock. Right hand on the gouge, left hand on the switch, and when the little nub stops turning, we'll know we're through. And I'll just take this over here to the workbench, sand that up, sign it, get it finished, and I'll be right back. Be sure you stick around to the end of the video so you can see the before and after shots of this piece. If you'd share the video, I'd really appreciate that. Thank you so much. Well, here it is. One Apricot live edge bowl in the books. And it's a beauty. Yes, it is. You see that feather in there? Isn't that cool? Very cool. It also shows up on the bottom somewhat. Not quite as dramatic. And speaking of bottom, there it is, all finished up. Got those cracks in there. Very typical fruit wood. Very pretty colors, nice grain. Beautiful bark. Nice and tight now. I think it turned out pretty well. I sure do like it. It's everything I hoped it would be from a piece of apricot that I've never turned in my life. I really hope you enjoyed the video. It was a lot of fun to make. Thank you, Mark, for sending this along, or bringing this along, for all to enjoy. If you like this video, thumbs up, please. I'd sure appreciate it. If you're a subscriber, how cool are you? You are totally cool. If you're not a subscriber, you might consider becoming one. I put out regular videos about one a week, and I'd like to keep in touch. I really appreciate you taking your time to spend with me today. It means a lot to me. I'm looking forward to your comments. So for now, this is Phil, Shady Acres Woodshop, signing off.